Hi, welcome to the Spiritual Connection Show. I'm your host, Katie Augustyn. So I'm a transformation coach, I'm an energy healer, I'm a shamanic practitioner, and I'm the spiritual head of the Transformation Center CT, which is located in Westport, Connecticut. And everyone is welcome to come to the center. We do a variety of workshops, we have trainings. We also have monthly events where we post it on our website. And one thing we do is called satsang, and that's usually the third or fourth Wednesday evening of the month. And it's really just an hour from 7:30 to 8:30, and you just come and, you know, spend time with yourself, and we do some meditation, some chanting. It's really a very relaxing yet rejuvenating time, so we'd love to see you there. We're also doing shamanic clinics once a month, the second Tuesday evening of every month, and also a shamanic drumming and journeying, where you can come and learn to journey. It's just a fabulous experience. We do some medicine drumming, so you can have a little taste of that as well. So we'd love to see you anytime. We also have weekend programs, lots of stuff going on. So check out the website, transformationcenterct.com. So the Spiritual Connection Show is all about connection. You know, it's about connecting with each other, as well as allowing us to connect more fully with our own spiritual selves. So we welcome you to come every week because I have a different guest, as you know, and you're going to be able to connect with them, with their spiritual journey, you know, who they are, what they're up to, you know, what they have to offer you. So please come often and check it out. Thanks for being here tonight. So my guest tonight is Donna Vella. Welcome back to the show, Donna.
Thanks, Katie.
I'm so excited to have you on again.
Thank you.
Donna was actually one of my first guests, and I looked it up. It was a year and a half ago.
Time flies.
Hard to believe, isn't it? Yes. And you know, so much has happened in your life since then, so that's why I wanted you to come back and update us, share with us, you know, where you are now and what's been happening. And I'm just going to read a little bit about you for our audience, you know, who hasn't met you before. So Donna is a holistic health and lifestyle coach. Mm-hmm. She's a positive psychology speaker and workshop facilitator. And most recently, she's now a Kripalu Mindful Outdoor guide. And I suspect we're going to hear all about that in a few minutes. Okay, cool. Yeah, so for those of you who didn't see the first episode, when Donna was on the show 18 months ago, she was just about to embark on this really exciting adventure. It was a cross-country motorcycle adventure with her husband. I mean, it still sounds just like a dream. And they called it Happy Camel Adventures. Mm-hmm. What a great name. So I was hoping, you know, you could start by telling us, like, okay, maybe the name, how'd you get that, you know, how it came about, everything, okay.
I can't tell you everything. We would be here for a very long time.
Okay.
But in a nutshell, so my husband and I, as a retirement adventure, more or less, decided that we were going to go cross-country and do bits and pieces of Route 66 just for nostalgic fun. You know, we were on a very vintage sidecar motorcycle, which played heavily into the Route 66 piece. And then also the national parks, where we have been, like a lot of people, when you have a week or 2 weeks of vacation, but the immersion into the park is something that we really hadn't had time to do and spend time, and that was becoming increasingly important to me, and also to my husband. The Happy Camel Adventure piece of it really had to do with the fact that we were looking through kind of a positive psychology lens, if you will, and this machine that we were tooling around the country on brings a smile to most people's face, and it was in that way that we were hoping to connect and maybe, you know, keep a blog updated and take pictures with people. People want their children in this machine and take take pictures of their kids. Sometimes people were bold enough to say, can you take my kid for a ride? It's just joyful.
Okay.
And that spoke very deeply to both of us in terms of what brings people joy around the country. And so that was kind of the starting place, with the ultimate goal of updating our friends and family and followers with here's what brings people joy, and actually asking that question.
Oh, okay.
So that was the starting point. And the kind of psychological starting point. The physical starting point was in Connecticut. And, you know, things didn't really gel until about we were a week into it, before you kind of have a little bit more of a routine. You're out of the tri-state area. We're now on secondary roads, and kind of the noise and the chaos of it all started to kind of settle down. And we were never on a highway, always on a side road, a secondary road, if you will. And things really started to slow down. So as the tempo kind of came down, I was noticing that both my husband and I, like our anxiety level, everything was kind of calming down. Likewise, we were seeing fewer and fewer people because we were getting in more remote places. So this notion of engaging with people often started to really diminish. I mean, we would definitely have conversations with people at diners, and people would ask us questions, and it was all lovely. And I have to say, even sometimes people would kind of look at us rather oddly or quizzically and make a lot of inquiries, and there maybe wasn't a smile. But once we got them engaged in a conversation, then a twinkle in their eye would start to show up, and a smile across their face would show up. And you can see the wheels start to spin about, wow, what would this be like? What would this be like?
Yeah,
and so again, you know, I took a lot of delight in seeing people not live vicarious, but wonder, like, can I do that too? And this is not something that was not accessible. I think in some ways it could be accessible for a lot of people. I think it's just out of their comfort zone.
Right, right. But you gave them the opportunity to see themselves in a different light, maybe?
I think so.
Doing something different?
Doing something different, and not having attachments, right? So you're not carrying an awful lot of gear on a motorcycle.
Can you describe exactly how that looked, what you had and what you didn't have?
So what comes to mind is the Beverly Hillbillies, frankly.
Yeah.
Like a lot of bags, a lot of bungee cords, things kind of like tied down. A tent, sleeping bags.
Because you're in the sidecar.
Not a lot of clothes.
You're in the sidecar.
Right.
And was there storage in there with you?
Not really with me in the sidecar, but definitely behind and on the sides. But nonetheless, it was.
Okay.
Yeah, Beverly Hillbillies comes to mind for your viewers that know who
right.
they are.
Who are old enough to remember who that is.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
And so we just kind of did our thing. It was magical, and it was nice and calm. And you know, every day was different depending on where we had spent the night, whether it be, a hotel, not often, a rented room, a campsite.
So you did some camping out in your tents.
We did, and we really didn't make any advance reservations. So we were just being spontaneous, and when we felt like stopping for the day, we would.
That's awesome.
But we also got into kind of this sweet place of meditating. So I could just coast in the sidecar and meditate for as long as I wanted. And doing that in a sidecar when you're outside, the sense of awe and gratitude and abundance for Mother Nature and everything we have outside becomes quite profound. And I think that my husband was also experiencing that. So that's kind of the way it started, but we had started to peel back a lot of layers of ourselves. And by the time we got to the national parks more on the West Coast, or more westerly, by the time we got to Colorado and Utah, we were in a very special, personal, quieted, calm place. And going to a national park, when you're in that state and you have well more than a week's vacation, allows for a deeper sense of compassion for the land. You go into the visitor center and you watch the films and you talk to the national park rangers and they take you out and you hike this land. You are very aware that you're walking on sacred ground. And the shift for me actually happened in Arizona. We were at Saguaro National Park.
Okay. Haven't been there.
And these cactus trees are so enormous, and their limbs are doing different things. And you can see where the indigenous people would look to each one and get different messages. It takes your breath away. And I had many moments from that point forward of shifts in my perspective about life. And this lens of positive psychology began to shift less from the thinking and more from the soul. And I often think about, I've been thinking about this lately, is the fact that psychology, the root word is psyche. And psyche is a Greek word for soul.
That's right.
So I went from all this thinking to really, really, really feeling this deeply. It makes me think of the quote where I went out to the woods to lose my mind and found my soul. And that it was a real awakening for me. It was really a deep awakening for me. And you know, everything was great. We had a lot of laughs. We had a lot of deep moments. We were in dark sky communities. We would just put our heads back and look at the stars. And the people that we met at campsites were also travelers. They were literally travelers. They were not homeless. They opted to pare everything down and just be out. And they were on bicycles and they were in Jeeps, and really inspiring, deep, meaningful conversations where you're looking at someone eye to eye and you're really having a deep and soulful conversation. And this just kept peeling back the layers of the onion for us.
That's amazing.
And then we broke down.
What do you mean?
The machine broke down.
Oh, the machine broke down.
Very tired.
Not you and your husband.
We didn't break down.
You were still going.
We were breaking down a lot of
barriers.
Right. But the piece of equipment we were moving on physically broke down. And it wasn't so bad. There was a coffee shop on one side and a gas station on the other side.
So you were literally right on it when it broke down?
Yeah.
Where was this?
We were in Colorado.
Where in Colorado? I'm just
I
curious.
wish I could remember.
Okay.
I just
somewhere
can't remember. We were somewhere in the middle of nowhere.
Clearly in the mountains.
In the mountains. And so we were exactly 82 miles from Yellowstone when we broke down.
Okay.
And we decided that we would put that machine in a Penske truck, which took us a couple of days to figure out, and we would continue on to Yellowstone.
So that's where you were headed.
In the big yellow truck. So we went to Yellowstone, and then we flew back home, and then flew back to get the motorcycle. Lots of shenanigans in between. But through this whole adventure, we were less and less in contact with social media, and we were taking, of course, our own pictures, but we were not really blogging, staying in touch. It all kind of just slipped away, because deep inside work was taking place.
Yeah. Wow.
By the time we got home, you know, there's quite a reentry coming back into the tri-state area and coming home. And
Imagine.
I found some really interesting things that happened. For example, I couldn't wait to sleep in my own bed. I couldn't wait to take a shower at home, you know, all your creature comforts. But when I opened the door, the first thing I wanted to do was have a cup of tea. And I opened the cabinet and I started to cry because there were so many coffee mugs there. Just things that we all have such an abundance of. Socks, teaspoons, everything. And I hadn't been living like that for months.
Yeah.
I only had this much, and it was really okay.
It was enough.
It was more than enough. So again, you know, more peeling back of this onion, and we by design decided to just kind of let it all process. I didn't really want to engage with friends and family. I found myself just wanting to absorb it and accept this re-entry, if you will, and figure out, like, how do we move intentionally, retaining this new sense of joy and abundance, living here in the Northeast. How do we make all those things be okay again?
Yeah, that's a good question.
It was really it was complicated, and also a joyful, another piece of the adventure, if you will, because so much of what we were feeling had to do with being outside in nature every single day for months. And I kind of reflected on this really not too long ago, that this motorcycle adventure ended up being more along the lines of a pilgrimage, if you will. And I think about it in those terms because we were experiencing deep sacred shifts while we were on deeply sacred grounds.
Right.
And, you know, a pilgrimage is you start here, you transform, and you change. And that, it was much more of that than anything else. And again, you know, the connection with the earth as opposed to the connection with social media. I had heard about an outdoor leadership program at Kripalu that I always had kind of in my mind an idea that I might like to take, get certified. And that thought, again, back to my cactus tree in Arizona, when my knees hit the floor and I started to cry, I knew that I was going to come back and do that. I knew that that was where I was going to go.
Wow.
And so in October, I went ahead and got that certification. But what I'd been thinking about long and hard was how much connection we all have with social media and being attached to our computers and how much time we spend on our computers. And recently I read that there's a Nielsen study that suggests that Americans spend over 11 hours a day in front of a computer. And
does that include devices,
Yeah.
phones, and et cetera?
over 11 hours. And 90% of their time is spent indoors, not outdoors. And it's really hard to imagine that we will do good things for the planet, that we will think where our plastic is going, think where our garbage is going, if we have this major disconnect
Right, we're
with
so
the land.
far removed
Very far
from
removed from the
nature
land.
and the land.
And through this program that I've taken, you know, I've learned about, this are not a medical diagnosis, but nature deficit disorder that where kids are experiencing now. They don't know what it's like to play outside like we did when we were kids.
Right.
They're afraid of bugs, they're afraid of things, they're not understanding that this is part of the whole system, it's part of the whole chain, it's a part how things work. And I think deeply about these things now, which has led me to become an outdoor guide.
Awesome.
So that's kind of where things have evolved to. All is the result of this fun adventure on a motorcycle that took a very interesting twist. I think you could imagine that some of this would have happened. I could have projected and foreseen that some of these changes would have occurred, but not the depth of them.
Right, right, because it's such it's something you have to experience. You can't just think it or imagine it. You have to be there.
You have to be there. And I think the intentionality with every single day about where does our garbage go? Where did my meat come from? Where did my fish come from? Where did my greens come from? They're deep roots now that have just shifted the way we live every day.
Wow. Well, that's really quite remarkable. I mean, in a way, you're right. You could have predicted some of it, and it's almost like the best possible outcome.
It feels that way. It feels that way for me and for my family, definitely I think when I take people out into the woods now, I think I'm more able to express the depth of my gratitude and the depth of my passion and understanding of this transformation. So when you take someone out in the woods, even for an hour, if just a little bit touches them, if they can just smell the dirt, if they can just touch a tree, if they can think about the fact that the air, what we're exhaling, the tree is inhaling, what the tree is exhaling, we're inhaling. You know, it's not us and them.
No, it's well, we're all one anyway.
We're all one,
you know?
And it's just one big community. It's been nothing short of a miracle for me.
Yeah, well, it's
I didn't grow up as the kid that wanted to be outside. And I think we talked about in the last time that I was on your show, my own issues with PTSD and anxiety disorders and things from my car accident. And to imagine that I would be standing so close to the edge looking into the Grand Canyon is something, you know, kind of nothing short of a miracle for someone that had trouble getting on an escalator in a shopping mall just because of peripheral anxiety and vertigo and things that linger. So I know that cortisol levels, I mean, you can read about this research, but when you're living the research and you know that cortisol levels and anxiety issues and profound shifts are taking place as a result of Mother Nature, it meant that there was no place else for me to go but to begin to give this back so that other people can find the same kind of grace.
Oh, wow. I mean, that's beautiful, Donna.
So that's where we are.
That you're giving back. And how, so what type of people come on your, what nature, what did you call them again?
They're called Mindful Outdoor Experiences.
Mindful Outdoor Experiences.
All kinds of people. You know, I haven't done too much with children. I would say it's open to anyone. Any, you know, all age ranges come out. It's not meant to be a hike. It's a saunter. It's more of a saunter. It's a slow walk through nature to observe your own senses, to touch the trees, to sit for a spell under a tree and just observe what you observe, smell what you smell, see what you see, notice a leaf. Just quiet down.
Yeah, just like, I don't know, because I know that what you said, we spend 90% of our time indoors, but it just seems like most people sort of have this appreciation of nature, but not so much. I mean, maybe it's just people I know.
It might be the people that you know, because, you know, I often hear people say, well, I really don't like spiders, I really don't like critters. And it takes a bit to sit and get comfortable and know that you won't be harmed, that it's part of the course of nature. I think that everybody believes that nature can heal, but actually intentionally spending time in it, like building that into your day, is where things can sometimes go amiss.
Yeah.
Not unlike meditation, not unlike any number of things that we all know that we should drink more water and we should have more leafy greens. But you know, it begins to be a tall order. And I think what I might be suggesting here is that by sitting in nature or taking a quiet walk and noticing how it changes from day to day, what has changed from day to day?
Right, that's a good way to
As
look
the
at
seasons change, as the days get longer, as the days get shorter, I think that could be the starting point to be someone who drinks more water and eats more leafy greens. Maybe nature is the starting point of making those shifts take place.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think
It could be, you know, maybe we're putting the cart before the horse, and maybe
yeah,
the other way
no,
around.
I think you're onto something
It
there.
might be something, and I, you know, the deeper you get into all these things, and you think about how sacred. Look, it's not only the national parks that are sacred grounds. The monuments are. Norwalk is. New Canaan is.
Yeah.
You can go to any historical society and do a little bit of legwork, and seriously, not more than 15 minutes,
Yeah.
and begin to understand what was happening here and what Native American history we have right here. And that's a great starting point. It is a great starting point. I think, you know, we just had Groundhog Day, right? February 2nd was Groundhog Day, and everybody worries about what Punxsutawney Phil is going to do. But what we don't think about is that February 1st, which is the day of quickening, is the midpoint between winter and spring.
Yeah.
That is a very meaningful day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Things are happening under our feet.
Yeah.
Things are starting to percolate.
Right.
The energy has shifted, the light has shifted.
Yeah. Yeah, the days are getting longer. There's a lot.
There's a lot
available if we look into it.
There's a lot available.
Well, this has been so enlightening. Is there any last thing you want to say? We have about 30 seconds.
I think I'd say get outside. Just
Yes.
breathe it, stretch into it, and let it take your senses away.
Thank you. Enjoy nature. Well, thank you so much, Donna.
You're welcome.
It's so great having you back on.
Thank you, Katie.
And thank you to our audience for being here tonight. I hope you learned as much from Donna's adventure and journey as I did. It's pretty remarkable. See you on the next show. I'm your host signing off, Katie Augustyn. Good night and blessings. Thanks for being here.